Look at us now, tip to tip.
Ooh, Jesus.
Oh.
Shout out to Morning Kombat.
Do you want a margarita?
Yes!
My God!
To us, doing what we love. It's time to bang. Oh, yeah, it's Monday morning. Let's go. October 13th of the 25s. You've stumbled into Morning Kombat. Luke Thomas is wigging out over here. I love it. And
Hey, careful with that.
And this is Brian Campbell, the best damn combat sports show they ever stuck directly into your face hole. Let's get fired up. We got to recap UFC Rio. The Bronx is burning. What a time to be alive. And you get to listen to us right freaking here. LT, Monday, can't trust that day. But, you have a little pep in your step today, it seems like. Did you just, drop one of those feel-good bangers or what? What happened,
There are many kinds of dumps, Brian Campbell, as I'm sure you are well aware.
Yeah.
This morning, the order of business was a power dump, like a true offloading. You know what I'm saying?
Unbelievable. Wow. Historic times. Great to hear.
Also not for nothing, but like getting able to, my daughter has school off today. My wife took her to her petting zoo, so Tuki's not here. But, or not petting zoo, but like a farm or whatever, like a pumpkin patch type, whatever the hell. Anyway, so I didn't have to get up at sorry, not for nothing, but I didn't have to get up at 4 a.m. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Adding a little extra hours of sleep. I'm telling you, look what it does. It's crazy.
Yeah. Keep Luke away from those new Amtrak trains with the uncomfortable seats. You get a very, very happy man right here. So that's what we're going to give you today on this Monday. Looking back at the weekend that was from Charles Oliveira to one Jaron Boots Ennis. And what else is going on in the combat world? We'll take your DM questions and close by scraping through the kernels of my Shiite. Maybe we'll see Celine again. You never know, Luke.
Is that the cake lady?
Yeah.
I'm
name.
BC, I'm going to physically assault you for this. I want you to
reach through that screen and touch somebody. Please like and subscribe to the show. It does go a long way. You can follow us on social media and also subscribe to our extended YouTube channels. Mine's been a little dormant lately. We'll see if that thing has new life in the end. But how about we talk
the shirt?
to
What's the shirt?
My shirt?
Yeah.
Oh, my shirt is the local 5K that raises money for the kids cross country. Hey, we got a big cross country race tomorrow, big conference championships. All right, so let's see how. Yeah, thank you very much. So let's see how we go there. We're going for all state there. We're going for the state title potentially too, but nobody really cares but this family. All right.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to introduce you to a man whose YouTube channel is on fire these days. He comes to us by way of an Australian man's ball carriage. It's Long Island Luke Nosita of the Main Card Minute. And Luke, I watched Prop Quiz the other day, and your boy Bronny just, oh my God, right? Just like
is he the Ken Jennings of this?
He has the highest score so far. I mean, spoilers, people, but he killed it this week. And speaking of the growing YouTube channel, did hit 5,000 subscribers this week. So
wow,
big deal for me. I'm pretty
Good for you.
Yeah, thank
you. How many do you have to be to get monetized?
1,000. I've been monetized.
Oh, okay. I don't even know anymore. So
yeah. Nosita's here in the house to produce, direct, and enthusiastically use his bong. So shout out to that fella. Also, quick reminder on the merch here. We got some October exclusives. It's mid-month, so get them while they're still sizzling hot. Some Average Joe art designs like Super Wash Dad's t-shirt. How about the Frank and Luke and Donkula Halloween special? Get it in t-shirt form, get it in autographed poster form, get it while the getting's good over there at morningkombat.shop. Hey, you can mix and match colors. You can buy a shirt for Saul's family, whatever you want to do right there. But get the sizes and colors that you want. Check out our evergreen items. It is morningkombat.shop, and they won't be there forever. I'm telling you they won't, okay? So get them now. LT, did you watch UFC Rio live over the weekend?
I saw the main event live, and then I watched everything else basically the day after.
Oh, okay. I watched it live. I would go as far as saying I enjoyed it. The crowd was nuts. I mean, Bisping made my ears bleed, but maybe more on that to come, right?
I think we do have to talk about that in topic 2. I think it's actually a thing that because they had
we've been talking about that. Okay.
No, but like they had, we'll talk about it topic 2, I think, because they had like an on-air, I guess it was a one-way spat, but like John Gooden and Michael Bisping had a bit of like a little one of an on-air spat. And
let me talk. Yeah, it was
a little bit of that, and it's probably worth having a conversation about.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a few of those too, Luke.
We have absolutely had a few. I may have generated one of those a time or two. You know what I mean? So
yeah, well done right there. Anything else going on in your personal life that you're willing to tell the people, including any recent medical diagnoses?
No, I had a physical. Actually, everything came out pretty good. I was actually pretty impressed by that. I was like, all right, I'm not dying yet.
Not bad for a guy with blood in his stool, right? Yeah,
right. And very, very regularly at that point. No, I'm teasing.
Okay,
that's not true. That's not true.
That's not true at all. No, that's not true. Okay. Big announcement today from the UFC. Dana White later this afternoon. What's your prediction for that announcement?
323 Maine.
And that's what, December 6th at Las Vegas?
I believe that's right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are we thinking here? Not Volk Evlo Eve?
So definitely you're one way or the other, you're going to get Pantoja, right? Pantoja and Van. I think that's a foregone conclusion at this point. The question is what you're going to put around it. Now, the conventional thinking is Ilya Justin will go in January because you want to take obviously your best guy in the sport or whatever you want to call Ilya at this point to start the Paramount era off with a huge bang. That would make sense. But you got to do something for December. It's the last pay-per-view. I think it's either going to be Merab defending against somebody.
Pyotr Yan, in the rematch.
Yeah, Yan. And the other one is people have said Volk Evloev, but then I've seen the people who are more reputable say that that's not necessarily true. So I think it's going to be amazing. If my understanding is correct, the very last event on the UFC ESPN era is an Apex event. So the last pay-per-view could potentially be a flyweight headliner. You know what I mean? Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
I think we might get Sugar Sean and Yadong on that as well. So there could be some things worth getting. But, we got a David Onama, Steve Garcia main event coming up at the Apex.
You can't believe it. Like, it generally is like what this is. LFA cards are like have more meaning. Well, that's not quite true, but
I've seen XFC cards with Juan Archuleta in the main event. You know what I mean?
And looked good. Looked good doing it,
Absolutely. All right. Hey, why don't we just
Erdashov. He's good too.
Why don't we just hit it hard here with topic number 1. Hey, it went down in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil on Saturday. Hey, great to see the UFC back in one of its original hotbeds. The crowd was slow at first, but boy, did they come alive and come afire once Charles Predator do Bronx Oliveira got right back to his winning ways, despite losing 3 out of 5 coming in against elite foes, being knocked out just 4 months ago by Ilia Topuria in their vacant fight, and being less than a week from his 36th birthday. Oliveira reminded us who's still got it. It's definitely him right now in the main event, needing not that much time to go cutting through Mateusz Gamrot like a hot knife through butter right there, submitting the Polish lightweight in the second round, and immediately after the fight, calling for a BMF showdown with one Max Holloway. More on that to come. But LT, I think for the second straight week, you felt what I felt, from Poatan winning to sort of restore order to some of our beloved fighters here at the top of the game in MMA, to now Oliveira, who was fighting off retirement questions leading into last week. I'd love to know how impressed you were by what he did to Gamrot, but maybe even more importantly, why was the reaction from the crowd in that arena to MMA fans around the globe being like, this guy just won the world championship again? It was a great feel-good moment.
It was a triumphant moment. I suppose if you asked Charles, I couldn't speak for him, but it seems plausible that if you asked him about what are the most high water mark moments in his professional career, what would they be? And I suspect that winning a UFC title or even defending it, whatever, would be on the order of like the number 1 or number 2 answer. But I got to say, to your point, BC, maybe it's not. Maybe it's something like Saturday night, which was just an absolute insane moment of ascendancy. I mean, I don't know. Everyone's going to feel a little bit differently, but to me, Charles Oliveira just kind of embodies and represents for us MMA joy. The joy you get from MMA, it seems like so pure when you get to watch Charles Oliveira, particularly come back from very, very difficult circumstances. By his own admission, he kind of very briefly, but at least toyed with the idea of hanging it up. I mean, that was a devastating, vicious loss, unlike any other he'd ever had in his very long and storied career. So, of course, you understand there was a bit of a homecoming vibe, right? That kind of ups the ante. It's a huge triumphant moment because of obviously what he had suffered previously. But I just think there's something like universal about the language that he kind of speaks as a fighter, BC, not verbally, but in broader ways. He is action oriented, and he is fun. And the other part too is like, I know everyone loves this era where it's everyone's edgy and edgelord shit, but I think everyone should take a moment and look around, and like Yuri Prochazka, Alex Pereira, and Charles Oliveira. Now, obviously Alex had some allegations that followed him previously, so maybe that was a little bit more of a qualified example, but certainly in the case of Yuri and in Charles, it's the perception that they're kind of honorable. Right? It's the perception that they're kind of gentlemen of the game in a sense. And I think that lifts people's spirits quite candidly, especially in a moment with a sport where it can be, very feast or famine. So it's a lot of factors working together, BC. Maybe if you disagree, I'd love to hear where, but I think that they're all working in conjunction to give you what we all kind of felt, whether you were in Brazil, the United States, you speak Portuguese, you speak English, or any other language. It just felt great.
Yeah, I mean, people love a comeback story. I get what you're saying about really the class that Charles Oliveira brings.
That's
He's
right.
already had one of the most inspirational stories from going from a, solid out in the UFC to that incredible 11-fight win streak and winning the UFC lightweight championship and doing it in such chaotic, exciting style. Now to see him come out in a fight that was essentially a pick'em betting wise, yet those that know were seemingly picking Gamrot, or those that thought they know, I should say, including us, because he was streaking. He's 34 years old at the peak of his prime, had won 4 or 5, and was really looking like this could be his moment. Gamrot came in here to play the spoiler, acted it out perfectly. But what we found instead was an Oliveira who was able to just dial it back like it was. I mean, this was a night for Brazil, from Deiveson Figueiredo to a few others, but man, for a fight night with a former champion that we thought was going in the other direction, I can't believe it felt this great. Not even good, great. Let's see this incredible post-fight photo of Oliveira, who had a wild celebration afterwards. Here's him standing at the stage around the octagon and looking out at the crowd. Like I said, that crowd started slow. Boy, did it feel like a major league event that had Oliveira, by the way, afterwards calling for a stadium fight with him headlining and Poatan in the co-main. They got a lot of UFC fighters, Brazilian or not, cage side for this. It felt like a big event for a fight night. Shout out to Charles Oliveira for giving that. And you may remember him running into the crowd, very comparable to what Jose Aldo did in Brazil there against Chad Mendes, I believe. Luke, that moment. This maybe not as emotional or aggressive, but it was pretty damn close.
I don't think I can remember any fight night, because this was not a numbered card. This was a fight night. I don't remember any fight night post-fight celebration that rivals that. Now, maybe I'm missing one. There have been some great fight night main events, but I just don't know which one holds weight in the significance that this one holds. It's remarkable.
And look, the numbers are staggering when you talk about what Oliveira has accomplished, and the fact that he does not seem to be done yet as he closes in on his 36th birthday. He's been in the UFC for 15 years. He holds records for most appearances. He's now tied for second with Neil Magny for most wins in UFC history at 24, just 3 behind Jim Miller. He already holds and extended his records for most finishes, most submissions, and most post-fight bonuses as well. Jim Miller closing in on a couple of those categories, but it's still Do Bronx at this point, or Predator, or whatever the heck you want to call him at the end of the day. I saw Joe Martinez called him Do Bronx after the win there. But Luke, what did this tell you? We'll talk about Gamrot and maybe the mistakes he made stylistically that opened this up, but to see such a dominant one-sided almost performance here from a guy who we thought was fading or beginning the fade. Where do you think this proves that the number four ranked coming in? Where does Oliveira still stand in this division in your eyes?
I think he's still, I would say, viable as an outside, not top or inside, but outside choice for a title shot. I think, and I know we'll talk about this. I think the perfect slot is the BMF title. But like, let's just talk about the ability, because like what he showed here is obviously quite important. BC, here's the funny part about this. On the one hand, you absolutely have to be heartened by the fact that Oliveira started this fight so aggressively, right? First of all, his bet was correct. His bet was, if I just take the fight to this guy, I'm going to mow right through him. He was right? So first of all, he was absolutely connecting the dots in the right way. The other thing, the reason why that's a good thing is because obviously after getting viciously KO'd, a lot of people come back, man, and they just don't have it in them to have the courage to exchange or last, or, the same resiliency or fire that they once had. And I didn't see any evidence of that, like zero at all. On the other hand, you do have to consider that, like, this is just kind of the way Oliveira fights. He's going to go forward against Topuria when it doesn't make sense. He's going to go forward against Islam. He's going to go forward against Gamrot. He's going to go forward against Gaethje. He's going to go forward against anybody. And so the question is whether the styles make fights. But what it also shows, I think, in the broader picture of BC, especially with that Omoplata series, and obviously his control from the back, dude, he is still a nightmare matchup if you are not on the level. He is just too good, too well-rounded, too committed to offense, and dude, his jiu-jitsu is absolutely instinctual. The reason why the timing on everything is so good is because it's just like driving to the grocery store for him. He doesn't think about whether he has to put the signal on and turn left and wait on this road. He can just do it almost freaking blindfolded. That's why his timing never misses in some of this stuff. It's a joy to watch him. He's still a threat. I think those threats have limits, but they have to be taken seriously too. And I think the real answer, BC, is, again, we'll get to it here, it's got to be the Max Holloway matchup for me.
Yeah. We will get to that shortly. One thing I wanted to interject with, though, and not that I want to turn every win into how does this reorder the all-time divisional rankings or GOAT ship or whatever, but I was getting aggressive Slack messages from my CBS Sports colleagues, Brandon Wise and Brent Brookhouse, from this idea that, like, holy shit, Oliveira might be the second best lightweight ever. And I'm like, no, hold on. Love him. But, like, there's Khabib. Islam has 4 title defenses. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see Islam fight Sarukian on the way out, or Topuria in that division. But, you've also got the lingering legend of BJ Penn. You've also got guys like Frankie Edgar and Benson Henderson, who had 3 title defenses each. But now the more I start to think about it, that impressive run of 11 wins went through a lot of big names. I know one win over Gamrot shouldn't change this conversation that aggressively, but whether Oliveira is long for the elite title picture or not, you have to believe this guy's going to fight until he's 40, and you have to believe by then he's going to have every single UFC record of longevity on lockdown. I do wonder at the end of the day where he is going to catapult himself historically, especially if he's not as close to sliding down that hill that is inevitably coming for him than we thought coming in. I mean, how much do you think about the totality of everything Oliveira has accomplished?
It's significant. I would have, I mean, in order to I feel like Brent and Wise are, they are keen observers of the sport. So I'd be curious to hear more about why they think he could be number 2. Are they basing that on not just what he has accomplished, but then like the level of skill he's shown? How are they weighing that?
I think they're using all of the above. I push back against it, but then I start to do the math and I'm like, I don't know exactly where you'd put him. And I don't think he's a better lightweight than Islam. They went head to head and close enough to their relative primes there but what I'm basically saying is whether they're right or wrong, the conversations are going to change anyway. The more he puts distance on these records that he's getting, and soon he'll have wins. He'll have wins soon.
I mean, we are talking about the guy with the most finishes in UFC history and the most submission wins in UFC history. To exclude him automatically, for example, from the top 2, it's like, wow, the guy who's done this the most, You know what I mean? Like, you would automatically have to place that guy in very high esteem. I think the thing that might be missing for me is, and I don't really know how to weigh this stuff, because a guy like Oliveira is just going to hang around for a while. And because he is so good, BC, he's going to do things like he did on Saturday. Now, he can't do that to Islam, or at least he didn't when he had the opportunity, but he's definitely going to just mow through guys like Gamrot, who are very, very good fighters. It's like Khabib didn't give us that, but what Khabib did is, one, he gave us basically a flawless run. And it only got better as it went along. Like, we didn't recede really on the way up, not much. And then the other part is, like, he kind of helped, like, either usher in the game, or I think helped facilitate bigger changes in how the game was pursued. You can't exactly say that about Charles. He's got a bit of a unique flair that isn't more like systemic or broad. However, to the point we raised previously, we're talking about the guy who's literally the best finisher the UFC has ever seen. Got to be something you could say for that.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have that win record. He's got a lot of records going on. So shout out to Do Bronx. One more delay before we get to Holloway. I did want to circle back on Gamrot. Luke, I loved how game he was. I loved his willingness to call out for this fight. I loved a lot of his demeanor within the Brazilian chants of "you will die" and all this stuff. Ultimately, though, way too willing to fight Oliveira at his most dangerous spot. And boy, did that catch up with him. And not to mention, when the fight was on its feet, I thought he would have a little bit more success keeping Oliveira off of him, and he didn't. Oliveira was lighting him up with punches. Now, credit to Gamrot in the start of that second round. You did start to see, or maybe it was the end of the first, you did start to see some nice counter right hands, and he was at least holding his own on the feet. But I feel like he had almost too much confidence in himself on the ground, and he found out. He effed around and he found out.
There's no question he effed around and found out. I mean, here's the thing you have to kind of consider about Gamrot is that people are going to say, oh, well, it's because he couldn't do well enough in the striking that he had to go to the wrestling, which is, there's an element of truth to that, right? He obviously doesn't have the stand-up skills. Now, not everyone's going to have the stand-up skills that Charles does, but it was like he had almost nothing, right? There was no real, I think there was a couple of times Oliveira tried to double jab backhand and he got hit with one time coming in like that, but he walked right through it, right? So it wasn't that big of a deal. But the reality is too, on the ground, BC, like if you look at Gamrot's record, for example, he's got a KO over Scott Holtzman, that was in 2021, and then he had a submission over Jeremy Stevens, which was also in 2021. But like basically since, let's see, 2022 against Saryuki and Dariush, Jalen Turner, he beat Fiziev, but that was off an injury. RDA, Dan Hooker, Klein, all those fights were a decision. And what it tells me is the pursuit of jiu-jitsu and the pursuit of ground and pound in grounded positions was also not enough of a development for him. Like the way in which he's been winning is sort of the establishment of control positions that he could maintain, even if he had to change them through the course of a round, but it could more or less maintain and could more or less, do some work to have not the referee stand you up or whatever, but not enough to really put it on opponents, not consistently. And that hurt him too. This is the thing, man. It's like skill development. It's not a question of whether Gamrot works hard. There's no doubt in my mind he works hard. But has he trained in a way the last 5 years, for example, that put him in a position to really develop his ground and pound positional advancement, the offensive dilemmas between the two? I don't know what the evidence for that would necessarily be.
Yeah, you knew it right away. You knew it right away that he was a step behind Oliveira. That maybe if he could build it toward 5 rounds, he could figure out a long-term thing, especially if he could try to tire Oliveira, but he never got there. And that's a credit to the new Predator, the old Do Bronx. Call him what you want. So speaking of calling him, of course, it was a call out afterwards for Max Holloway, and that's a great fight, a great storyline given that they fought so many years ago at a different division. Holloway getting a win at a time where Oliveira, what was the injury, Luke, that led to that victory for Max?
It was like a neck injury.
It was like esophagus or something.
Yeah, it was like he grabbed like his neck or his throat, and it was weird. This was, remember, so this was also when Charles Oliveira, this is going to sound crazy to say, but back then it was true. It's not true anymore. He was a little flaky. You know what I mean? He was like, he would have weird performances. He'd get kind of injured. He would just kind of fall apart. This is in the middle of that stretch, even though he was still pretty good back then.
Some people thought he was a quitter. He would obviously prove
Yes.
that wrong during his title run for sure. But the idea that, you had Charles calling out Conor McGregor before this fight for a White House BMF fight. This makes more sense against Max. It does potentially, though, leave Paddy Pimblett out of a major fight at this moment. If we're going to get Ilya versus Justin Gaethje potentially in January, which you hear some rumors, we already know we're getting Sarukian versus Hooker coming up for a quasi number one contender fight based upon who wins and how good they look. Paddy's still in that mix, but looking for a fight. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense for both men, Holloway and Oliveira, to do it. The star power, the fact that they both still got a great amount left under that hood in their mid 30s here. We got an almost instant reaction from Max Holloway, who streamed live on what was it, Kick or Twitch or one of those things afterwards. Yeah. Do we have the video or the
I believe we have the video.
All right, let's check in on Max's reaction to this.
I know, bro. I know already. I see the chat. We know, bro. We hear, bro. We heard the call out. Tell him. Only time will tell now, bruh. Type of fight, the White House. That's so long to wait. It'd be such a long wait, you know what I mean? Ain't making no promises, though. It'd be a fun one. And we've been talking about this fight. Me and him have a history. He's blaming it on some type of injury. I guess we get to figure it out now. Huh? My hand is good. Not good. My hand is getting better. And we're just waiting to get cleared. I haven't really got back on the mats yet. I've been doing some strength and conditioning, but that's about it. We'll be back sooner than later. So
he would go on to say that he would prefer this fight in March. Do you think the UFC would put this as a pay-per-view main event given the star power for March?
I mean, they got to do, well, again, CBS star power in March. You know what I mean?
That's a fair point. PLE star power. Yeah.
PLE. That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how they're going to, they got to do something. Like, listen, January is the first of the year and June is the 6th. You got 4 months in between there. You got to fill out some, numbered shows or whatever you want to call them. I just feel like it'd be a great opportunity if he doesn't want to compete at the White House because it's too long of a wait, because it's, essentially you're in Q2 at that point, right? Or Q3, excuse me. So, yeah, I totally get it. So listen, the sooner the better as far as I'm concerned. As you heard him say, his hand is still messed up. He's doing strength and conditioning. He's not fully back to training and whatnot. But he intimated in the video, BC, he was like, that's too long of a wait. Yeah, let's do it. Fire him up.
Yeah, Holloway has actually won 4 of his last 5. The only loss being that Topuria knockout the first time he was stopped in their lightweight or in their featherweight title fight.
That's right.
Now, of course, Topuria atop this division. I mean, could you see though, if this fight happens, does the winner get a title shot immediately due to that star power connection and the fact that both are rated in the top 5?
It depends what they do with Paddy.
Yeah,
that's
right. Because if you're keeping Paddy out of this January debut, if that's the way they go, then you could be looking at if you don't need to put it on the White House card, but you can make it a main event at any point, obviously. Paddy versus Ilya, and that's a major, big ordeal. Luke, how different do you think this fight would look, Oliveira versus Holloway, with these versions of them right now in this division?
Say that again?
How different would Oliveira Holloway 2 look now that they are advanced in age and at the lightweight division?
I just can't imagine it would look like the first fight. I mean, one never knows. MMA is crazy. Max wasn't nearly as good then as he is now. Certainly he has more miles. That's obviously a part of it too. However, he's significantly more skilled. And if you didn't really know Charles Oliveira back then, it was not in any way obvious that this guy, you knew he was going to be a submission threat and go for it, but you thought that might actually physically cost him because of how much he was getting hit and how much it really affected, even fights he won. It was just kind of like a brutal slog. He is significantly improved. Yeah, I mean, this fight, BC, this fight could be an amazing fight. It could be on par. If you didn't know they were actually weight class champions, it might look like it was. I'm not going to say as good as fighting gets, but absolutely no reason to not make this one. It'd be foolish not to.
Yeah, it's interesting because the UFC doesn't prioritize Brazil these days. Do they not even have a TV deal there still?
I don't know the current state of it. I mean, they did have the biggest one. They were on Globo, but that one expired.
But it isn't the type of nation where they can charge, insanely high ticket prices. You don't see a lot of pay-per-views or now PLEs go there anymore. Although we did just see what UFC 301 was the last one. You've got Max wanting UFC badly to go to Hawaii, but there's some logistical issues there. Do you believe the UFC would do what Oliveira is asking to put him and someone like Poatan on a double header and go do a big ass stadium there? Probably not, right?
Probably not. Again, the one thing that I've been thinking about, and I don't know the answer to this, and BC, maybe you can tell me if there's a lesson to be learned from the professional wrestling side, which is, and we've talked about this before, in a world of pay-per-view, obviously we already know the UFC will take pay-per-views to Australia. They'll take them to, regularly. They'll take them to the Middle East and the Emirates. They've taken them to Brazil. But in general, and of course, UK a few times as well. In general, they happen in North America, which is not an accident because the overwhelming majority of the pay-per-view buying audience has been in North America. But if pay-per-view goes away, now, yes, if you're on CBS, then obviously your product needs to be catered to what CBS is going to prefer. But let's say it's a numbered event, BC, that doesn't necessarily air on CBS, which, again, I know there's some lack of clarity about. In a case like that, why do you have to have it in North America? Now, again, if you're going to have it at some crazy time, like for, it's perfect time for the Japanese audience, your viewership will suffer. And to the extent that they have to really maintain those viewership numbers, maybe what I'm about to say doesn't make sense. The point I'm just trying to make, or at least the question I'm trying to ask anyway, is to what extent does removing the pay-per-view component free the UFC up to play with geography of their main events and their events more broadly?
Depends upon, at the end of the day, I think it still depends upon how much is that city or country paying for the site fee, and how much do they believe they can make on the live gate with ticket prices.
But but that part too, though, is again, we can debate what is the right amount for the UFC to be hosting events in Brazil? What does that mean? How many events annually does that look like? And that's a debate you can have. But just in terms of being a talent pipeline, Brazil is an extremely important market, maybe one of the most, if not the most important markets in the world. Even if you're not bringing shows there because you can maximize ticket prices, certainly maintaining a presence in that market is a kind of investment you have to pay to maintain that spot or maintain that hotbed of talent at the levels that it is, right? Isn't that part of going there?
I agree. I mean, that is a MMA, BJJ and MMA mad country. Life's part of the culture, part of the lifestyle, obviously, along with football, Luke.
Yeah,
and
Fuchi ball is how they say it.
Yeah, a lot of curvy women too. You gotta, you do have to speak out on that.
Yeah, I mean, you were like, yo, these I can't even do it.
Don't be putting them Ruskies down, Luke. Okay,
I didn't say anything about it. I didn't say anything about
it. Be picking them up instead. All right, let's get grosser. No, one more thing from Oliveira, the dad. How about that moment with his son? I thought he was going to drop him when he palmed his kid, and it was very Lion King-esque. Luke, you're a hashtag girl dad. What do you think about this?
I'm typically of the belief that there should be limited conditions under which babies are brought into the UFC octagon. Just for all parties' sake. However, while risky, and I did take a bit of a breath watching this, I think all's well that ends well.
So you're not progressive enough to argue for an in-octagon birth during a fight. That's not something you're looking for.
I think there's plenty of blood already. I don't know if we need to add that to the mix.
Well, people that don't know about the floor of an operating room post pregnancy.
Bro, it's a murder scene. It's a murder scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I saw on Netflix. Do you see the new BTK killer documentary?
I have not. No.
So, dude, you remember the BTK killer? Like, he was in the 70s. He was killing a bunch of women and stuff. And
Sam, what are you talking about? I don't know.
No. BTK, bind, torture, kill. He kills a bunch of people in the 70s. A bunch of dudes try to take claim for it. And he actually writes a news station being like, no, it's me. And then he includes details that only he could possibly know. And he loves the attention. He keeps doing it, but it stops for like 20 years. He does it again in the 90s, but then eventually he gets caught. Dude, he had a daughter. His daughter speaks about her dad, excuse me. And it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Yeah.
Yeah. Netflix has cornered the market on insane documentaries of late, deep inside the membrane. All right, now's a good time to take a pause here. And remember, by the way, where Tequila's story truly began. Let's go back, 1795. Cuervo invented tequila. Since then, Cuervo has stayed true to its roots, by the way. Same family, same land. Yeah, we're talking about that same passion because 230 years later, Cuervo is still right here in every pour and every margarita. How about every celebration too? So enjoy the tequila that started it all, Cuervo. The tequila that invented tequila. ProximoCuervo.com. Please drink responsibly. And LT, I don't need to tell you, but why don't we remind the people that Wednesday, October 22nd, 3 days before UFC 321. Is that Dubai, Abu Dhabi? Which one is that?
That is, I'll double check.
All right. Of course, the Cyril Gane challenging Tom Aspinall for the UFC Undisputed Heavyweight Championship. We will have an MK pregame preview, UFC 321. Did you say Abu Dhabi?
Abu Dhabi. Mm-hmm.
All right. We're going to do that live, 11 a.m. Eastern, Wednesday, October 22nd, from the Meadowlark Studios in Manhattan. Although previously advertised, Jed Meshew #2 is no longer able to make it, Luke. But we found a suitable replacement.
He has to. Jed told us, and he told us to tell you guys this, that he has unbearable crab lice and has to go for a medical procedure to get all the lice and eggs pulled out of all his nether regions. So
yep.
we wish him the best.
We do. One Charles J. Mindenhall, okay, is back in the building.
Iceman.
2 Wednesdays from now. Don't miss it because Morning Kombat is brought to you by Cuervo. Now's a good time to enjoy the tequila that invented tequila. All right, let's keep it going down there in Rio, where we did see, by the way, the king of Rio, Jose Aldo, officially lay down those gloves for the final time, family around him. Look, we don't get weird ceremonial things like that in the UFC too often. That one felt good, right?
It did feel good. I actually was very heartened to see this. I thought this was a very classy gesture by them. Seemed well received by all parties. Well done.
Yeah, Jose had a tear in his eye, but he earned it. He deserved it. All right, let's go back to the main card, the co-main event there, or one of the featured fights. Sorry, Joel Alvarez, the Spaniard, moving up to welterweight. He was more than a 5-1 betting favorite against a Vicente Luque, who we were wondering there at age 33 whether he still had it. Wow, Alvarez lit him up from pillar to post. There was a referee controversy built into that, and that led to a little bit of a tussle on the microphones that we mentioned earlier. But first and foremost, Luke, this stops a streak for Joel Alvarez, who had finished every single opponent he has beaten in his MMA career. But it was weird in round 3 where he had a head scissors on Luque, and both guys seemed to be content to sort of just sit there with it. The fight goes the distance. I was overall impressed with Alvarez. A lot of people on my timeline were like, impressed? No, where do you come in on that? On his one-sided drubbing. I mean, beat Luque. He beat the shit out of him, Luke. And that's a guy who fought some big names right there. I was impressed by Alvarez's welterweight debut.
Yeah, I mean, he beat him like a drum. I'm not, honestly, why is this his fault? Of all the people you could blame for why that fight ended up the way that it ended up, why would it be his fault?
I don't get it. He was crisp. His boxing was fantastic.
I get it. Oh, he didn't go there and maul Luque in round 3. Okay, he didn't go in there and when it looked like he could have mauled him. It's like, did y'all see what happened to him in rounds 1 and then especially rounds 2? The guy clearly took mercy on him. And I know you're not supposed to, but there's been circumstances where people do that, and I don't love all of them either, but in this one I kind of get it. The guy he was fighting had talked about brain. Remember he had a brain scan issue that held him out for a little bit, BC, and it was a brain bleed issue, I believe. So yeah, I totally get why he would actually soft pedal it in round 3. I realize that's boring to watch, and it's not what he should be doing. He's supposed to be advancing the fight. Dude, the referee could have taken a point from him, to be perfectly honest. That would have been well within the right to do. But it didn't. Once again, there's a lot of other people you could blame for this. You want to put a little bit on Joel Alvarez? Fine. But it seems to me like there's a lot of other things that happened here, too. Dude,
I mean, look, we're gonna get right into this referee controversy. But first and foremost, it's sad to see Luque, who's always been an action fighter, who's always brought it to names better and bigger than him. And, he's won some, he's lost some. But he's now lost. He came in losing 3 out of his last 5 and being stopped in all 3. he probably would have gotten stopped here if that weird, leg choke wasn't going on around his neck. I mean, sad to say it, Luke, but he kind of looks past it here at age 33.
Yeah, it was an inverted triangle that he had. He just didn't finish it, but that was an inverted triangle. Luque needs to consider his health here. Everyone always says, oh, you can't tell another guy to retire. Yeah, you're right. I'm not his mom. I can't do that. But what I can say is he's taking the kind of damage that either is already or soon will, and probably already has, going to affect his quality of life later on in life. Like this is, if this was in pursuit of winning efforts for the sport's highest honors and paychecks, this would be something of a very different conversation. But we're not there. That's not what's happening. This is an extraordinary amount of damage for, yes, is Luque a good fighter? He's a very quality fighter. Everybody knows that. But the kind of performances he's turning in are not super high quality. They're not up to the standard that we know him to sometimes be, and they're coming at extraordinary costs. This is the very moment where some reflection about what you want to do with your life. Remember, BC, he speaks multiple languages. He's done some commentary work. He is very articulate. He's clearly quite bright. Right? There's some thought that needs to go into like saving these things, like a Chris Algieri did, for use in life later, and the kinds of ways that can reward you. I don't know if he's having those conversations, but he needs to. And immediately.
Agree. I think that's well said right there. It's kind of shocking to see his face. Look, he's getting hit too much. His face doesn't hold that resistance well. And in the first round, he took a short left hook that ultimately the knuckle hit him right in the eye. He would react as if he was poked. He probably thought in real time he was. But Luke, local Brazilian referee, whose name I do not currently have.
I think it's Osiris Myra.
Yeah, Osiris Myra could not have botched this more. He stops the action. It is kind of instantly discovered upon replay that this was from a clean punch, not a poke. Instead of restarting the fight, he then allows the cage side doctor to come in to examine the eye, giving Luque an unnecessary amount of time to recover. Before we get into Bisping's overreaction, what do you make of the handling of this referee? And are we all correct to say he should have just restarted the fight the moment that the replay official let him know that this was a clean shot?
Dude, I gotta say, and I realize they're not in North America where people can say that this might, I don't know if people think that this is, obviously there are great judges and referees who aren't in North America, but the centerpiece of how MMA rules came to be and the culture around that did come from the United States. Again, not exclusively, but the vast majority of that. So the best training typically is there. The best referees, of course, not always, but typically can be there. Or again, you can get somebody like Mark Goddard who's been training in those places and abroad. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is there's a bit of a trade-off when you go to Brazil in terms of if you're going to use local referees, what kind of quality you're going to get. So that's partly what's happening here. But yeah, this was don't you just feel like, I'm not saying that over the years I haven't witnessed improvements in real ways to various forms and jobs within the officiating world. At the same time, I'm not sure if I felt like referee work was sloppier than it is now. And genuinely,
they're afraid to enforce everything. They're making obvious mistakes. Not even in ways where you could say, okay, well, maybe the commission is universally telling them to focus on this. It's a wild card. It's a giant buffet of buffoonery.
Yes, you just never know what you're going to get. You're never going to know if the rule is going to, even if two places, because it's one problem if you have, let's say, state X and state Y, and they actually have different rules, right? That's kind of a problem. But if you actually have a place where X and Y have different referees, but the same rules, you might expect some variance, but it should be closer. And it feels like we're just not getting that with, at least in this case, with Osiris Maya and plenty of other places. And again, even last week we had Keith Peterson or whatever it was, his last time out. Keith Peterson just absolutely categorically refusing to take a point or beyond, there's 4 fouls. There's even a minor but real headbutt between rounds, and they're not doing anything. Either they're not enforcing the rules, BC, or they're enforcing them selectively, or they're just making it up as they go. We saw that submission a couple of weeks ago, where the referee didn't count it, but then did, or maybe it was the opposite, something like that. Well, what was that Long Island Luke card a couple of weeks ago?
It was Neil Magny and Jake Matthews.
And Jake Matthews. Mateusz.
Yeah.
They're just making this shit up as they go. They're not enforcing the rules, and he missed this one. John Gooden, I'm sure we'll get into it now, but John Gooden was right. Once you realize after replay, hey, he actually, yes, he did get hit in the eye, but it was from a legal punch. There is no timeout. On your feet and fight it out or quit. Those are your choices. And to your point, BC, that didn't happen.
Yeah, and I think we also said we're going to talk about Lucas Almeida's broken hand, but Jason Herzog let him get hung out to dry in this card as well and just take a beating before that stoppage. But let's talk about the reaction here. Look, I got nothing personal against Michael Bisping, but I have been on record in saying that he's probably my least favorite UFC live fight commentator. Think he's a great personality on a desk. I loved him on the Fox studio show they used to have, established podcaster, all that. Legend of the sport. But to use a two-man booth involving him is just asking for more mayhem than you already get. And what do I mean by mayhem? I just mean from a broadcasting standpoint, the guy doesn't follow the traditional lanes. He acts as if he's the play-by-play guy and the color commentator throughout the entire broadcast and leaving scraps for the third person usually and talks over everyone and all a lot of things that from a mechanical, technical standpoint of broadcasting is tough to listen to. This one in particular, though, when it was a two-man booth with just him and John Gooden, they had Heidi Andrel, of course, as the ringside report, cradeside reporter. But Bisping was just snappy. I mean, yelling at Gooden to let him talk. The key part was about this referee timeout in round one, where Bisping was arguing that it should have been a TKO win for Alvarez. I think he was intimating that Luque had quit, but Luque, I'm assuming, thought he was poked. So it was obviously a confusing scenario, one in which the referee made harder by allowing that doctor to come in. But to hear Gooden, who's, seems like a class guy, seems like a solid announcer, just get talked down to by Bisping. And when Gooden's just trying to explain to him that the fight should have continued, Luke, is there an argument for what Bisping is saying, that the fight should have been a stoppage? Because I don't agree with that under any interpretation of the rules. And even further, is there an argument that this guy shouldn't be reined in more? Because I'm not going to say my ears are bleeding, but it's not an enjoyable listen. It's 10-minute stories. It's taking something simple and describing every part of it in a circle and a loop to the, leaving others out of the opportunity to speak. It's too much, dude. It's too much.
Yeah. I mean, a few things I would say on this, just as a general observation, BC, I'm just going to say this. I think it's way too often that you've got UFC fighters in commentary roles who consistently seem to struggle with rules knowledge, right? Here you have a case where John Gooden never fought. He does train jiu-jitsu, but has never fought, just took it upon himself to learn the rules. He was the one, unless there's just a special set of rules that CAB MMA has, that's the Brazilian, which I don't believe is the case, the Brazilian commission. He was the one arguing correctly. And this isn't just, specific to one commentator, and not all of them, by the way. I think there are some that do. But, I just feel like there's a lot of these athletes who obviously are very talented broadcasters, certainly very talented fighters, and think that that is just enough to carry the day. And it's not. Understanding what the rules are in a commentary position is critical, and it is frankly non-negotiable. You don't have to have the most insane command, but a basic literacy of them is important. And what Michael Bisping was arguing is, to my knowledge, not correct. It was what John Gooden was arguing, which was once the referee ascertains that this was an accident, the point at which you're having a timeout immediately ceases, and you either start the fight again, or you can, if he doesn't want to continue, then the fight's over. But those are the only choices that remain. Let me say something, BC, as somebody who has, may or may not have snapped at his his on-air co-host, let he who is without sin cast the first stone in a circumstance like this. I have actually done something relatively recently, as a matter of fact, just kind of like this, maybe even worse. So I'm not going to sit here and beat up Bisping for that, because I'm not the person for that. I have my own issues. What I can say, though, is, having lived through that experience a little bit, is maybe to say, you got to take a look in the mirror and realize it doesn't matter why you felt the need to say that. It's unacceptable. And again, you and I, and even spirited debate can happen in a commentary booth.
Sure.
Absolutely. Spirited debate, I think, is something that the listeners on occasion would actually be up for. But snapping at each other, that's different. That's a different thing. And if you're doing that, it's incumbent upon the person doing it to take a look in the mirror and examine why. Do they need to have a talk privately off camera about some friction that might be existing? I mean, I'm making something up. I don't even know if that's it. I'm just saying, whatever it is, you got to take it upon yourself to solve that issue. And then lastly, the thing I would say, BC, is just about the talking. It's like, I think, and again, I do a little bit of MMA commentary. I don't make any claims about how good I am. And in fact, the last show I had 2 bad fuck ups that are kind of eating at me a little bit. I'm not saying this is somebody who's got this shit figured out. Far from it. You're better than me on the boxing, far better than me on the boxing side, and commentary, I think, more broadly. So I think you could speak with a little bit of more authority. But what I am going to say is just a lesson I've learned, and I do think you're right. If there's a criticism you could make of Bisping, it's he simply talks too much. It's just too much talking. And I think a lot of broadcast situations can be improved by just having a little bit less to say.
I agree. I think if he can learn to speak in sound bites and make those sounds matter, he'll be more beloved and will allow his personality to come out. And I've said this before, and I'll say it once more. I also think he's a natural heel. It's just his personality. You can be that natural heel as a color announcer, especially as a former fighter. Lean into that. Just don't dominate the broadcast. That's all we're saying there. Luke, there was this Luque moment after round 2 where it seemed like he was telling his corner that he did not want to continue, or he wasn't sure. Do you think there's an argument for a stoppage there in this Alvarez fight?
I mean, it's definitely worth asking the question, and I'm glad you did. I don't know what the answer is here, because I respect Henry Hooft. I certainly respect Vicente Luque. I don't know the ins and outs of what they have said to each other in the corner. Because here's one thing. I've jumped the gun on this kind of stuff before and then come to find out that there'll be certain contours of a relationship you don't fully appreciate, that certain language will sound really bad. And then it's a little less clear when you actually do some digging. On the other hand, we also know it to be true that, in my judgment, I believe is better, maybe a better way to put that, BC, that there are not enough proactive corners stopping fights in MMA. Now, again, Joel Alvarez didn't do a whole lot to Vicente in the third, but somebody else might have. And I think he got away with one, and he was asked, like, how are you feeling? And he said, not good. I believe, Long Island Luke, did I get that right? He said not good between the second and third round.
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember exactly what he said.
Long Island Luke was high.
Enough.
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
no,
I was
it's
drunk
enough to
at
be
that
like,
point.
I mean, it's a very simple kind. It sounds overly simplistic, BC, but it's like if you ask the guy how they're doing and they can't even like fake a good, maybe they shouldn't be out there, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. To close on Joel Alvarez here in his welterweight debut, improving to 8-1 over his last 9. Here is Joel reacting to this victory. Look, I like that he's not going to entertain a cut back down once more. Welterweight is his future. Is the future bright for him? This is a deep division. It's probably the deepest from 1 to 15 that we have, or at least it felt like that about 3-4 months ago. Is this guy sort of an instant contender in your eyes?
Well, I was heartened by this. I don't know. Again, okay, fine. You didn't love the third round out there. All right. Who did? But he didn't look small. I mean, okay, Luque is not the biggest welterweight, but he didn't look in any way Alvarez outgunned, out physically sized at 170. It seemed like pretty appropriate. He looked fast. He looked sharp. You know, again, there's criticisms to make of him, like there is any fighter, but I don't know. It seemed like to me, I was like, wow, he actually looked like he could do something here. And again, the fact that he just kind of annihilated Luque in the second round, I left this whole thing being pretty heartened about his welterweight campaign. And BC, 32 years old. You know, I don't know exactly how good Alvarez is going to be, but he's a tough out. He's certainly a violent guy. You're adding to an already super stacked welterweight division. Yeah, I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's fun. I think now he's not going to have the thing hanging on him of the weight cuts of it dragging him down. I mean, we might be seeing that with Jaron Boots Ennis, by the way, now at 154. We'll get to that, how he just looks like he's not carrying that physical burden anymore. Here's a tweet, though, about that third round in which the fans did not love here from Guilherme Cruz. Alvarez has the inverted triangle locked in, but obviously won't finish Luque from that position. So crowd is now chanting, "Hey, referee, fuck you." I mean, Luke, what do you do in that spot? Alvarez is clenching the cheeks to try to get the tap. Obviously, Luque's okay, like in that spot. He gave the thumbs up. It felt like both were content to just ride it out.
Yeah, both were content to ride it out. There's no, and this kind of goes back to like, if your fighter is suffering but still wants to compete, then it's a really more difficult question, and you probably err on the side of letting them compete. But Luque wasn't. It didn't look to me like he had like competitive fire in that answer between the second and third rounds. And then look at what he turned in on the third, BC. Yeah. Like, did that look like he had, like, did that look like somebody who was trying to win?
No.
I would submit to you it was not.
Nah, tough to see there, but big win for Joel Alvarez. Let's transition to topic number 3, which is the rest of the UFC Fight Night Rio card from Saturday. And in that co-main event, boy, did we have a streaking Montel Jackson, having won 6 in a row, looking to crack into the ranked portion and the title contending portion of this bantamweight division. He took on a former 2-time flyweight champion in Deiveson Figueiredo, who had a lot of questions coming in from age to recovering from the knee injury and the illness that had him looking not so great against Corey Sandhagen. But on a night where we would find out we didn't know what we thought we knew about Charles Oliveira, same thing could be said in this co-main. How about Figgy bouncing back, getting the split decision victory, relying on his wrestling early, and then just using the threat of the wrestling to keep Montel at bay from distance. The fight was not overly exciting, particularly down the stretch where it looked a little bit more like a sparring match. But Luke, you don't see people at this advanced age in a division this small retaining contendership like this. I mean, we're even shocked at what Oliveira just did at lightweight. How, I don't know if happy or proud are the right words, but what were you in your feels after Figgy bounced back and got the win right here?
I was happy for him, but I was very happy for him. It was a nice feel-good moment.
He turns 38 in 2 months, by the way.
Yeah. It's amazing that he is as competitive as he is this stage. You can see why he won a UFC title, right? That level of, we talked about with Charles, like you can see why he won a UFC title. It's not really a mystery. At the same time, it's like, did this win make me feel like, oh, he's back? You know, I wouldn't say I got that. I thought he was coming back a little bit too quickly from his knee injury. Again, he won. I thought Montel Jackson was, you know, sort of stubborn as an opponent, which makes it hard to look good against. But I don't know, maybe you feel differently. If you do, please say so. But I just didn't watch this and go, oh, well, yeah, I mean, let's, you know, what, 2 more good wins, he's back in a title contention. I just don't feel like.
I took it more as I didn't think he's not as far out after losing 2 straight fights against good opponents that I assumed he was at this age. I mean, he's so undersized for this division, yet he's able to control distance. He's able to use the threat of that right hand. In this fight, he used the threat of that wrestling. I thought it was a smart veteran performance, but if you want to be real, the real thing we learned about this is that Montel Jackson isn't ready for prime time, unfortunately for him. I mean, look, hands the size of, you know, giant ass watermelon basketballs, like just monstrous hands. That didn't translate in this fight. It was an underwhelming performance for an American at a time when American MMA can use a boost.
Yeah. I think that this is more to me. If you're asking who I learned more about Jackson. The fact that this was a great step up opportunity. And again, he didn't look shabby. He just couldn't get much done. And to your point, BC, that also certainly speaks to Figueiredo's level of, you know, even baseline ability. But, you know, if you're not able to win those kinds of fights against a guy who is older in Figueiredo and coming off of a pretty devastating injury, you know, there's some pretty significant questions about your upside at that point. So, unfortunately, that's kind of the lesson that I took.
Hey, Long Island Luke, we had tears in the eyes of Figueiredo. Were you not feeling anything? Because I was happy for the guy.
I was happy for him. I did throw in before the fight started a former champ parlay, Figgy and Oliveira. It was like plus 600, so I was
Not
pretty
bad.
happy. But yeah,
Not bad right there. All right. Let's go further on down the card. What a debut for the lady goat of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We're talking about former decorated Hall of Fame Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion and practitioner Bia Mesquita, who at age 34 scored a dominant win in her UFC debut against somebody who will show, and have you seen this shit, is becoming one of my favorite crazy undercard fighters, and that's Rocket Ronda, Russian Rocket, Arena Alexieva. Luke, this was one-sided. We got Bia Mesquita
Yeah.
going to full mount, and Luke, that time she had the arm trapped around, what do you call that?
Gift wrap.
She gift wrapped the shit out of her in full mount, raining down strikes. I'm not ready to put her in there against Kayla Harrison, but to make a transition from a dominant run in one discipline of martial arts now to the highest level of UFC, pretty impressive to kick off the career, in my opinion. What about you?
Yeah, that gift wrap was real nice. I mean, one of the things, I'm an old piece of shit now, BC, but one of the things I learned when I used to roll back in the day with very, very good people is they don't just break your grip, they break your grip and then keep it. And they keep it for themselves. If you'll notice, there's a moment where she peels back on the blade of the hand, Alexieva's arm, and then uses that to then, she peels it and then controls it. Right. So it's this sort of, it just reminded me like this, every part of her jiu-jitsu game is just obviously high quality, but it's those little details about, the things that good ones do versus really consistently excellent ones do. And she has that. She looked awesome, BC. Her LFA run was also pretty impressive. This was an overmatched opponent. I think we can all agree there. She was not up to par.
She's game. She's wacky and game. You got to give Russian Ronda that, okay?
She pushed her to a second round, so she had to, start the attack over again, but it obviously went from bad to worse. Very, very, and you know what? Ground and pound. And also what I'm going to say is you just don't see many people who have that level of mount in MMA anymore, where they can just float position to position to position to position inside of mount and then still terrify you with ground and pound. So really nice to see what she turned in. Great performance.
Yeah, and as Long Island Luke would tell us, Russian Ronda had never been finished before. So a sort of dominant start. Now look, Luke, for Bia, the striking didn't look world-class, but she's muscular, confident, obviously experienced at a very high level. And when we consider the women's bantamweight division, which we rarely consider, we've got a super fight coming up with Kayla and Amanda. You've still got former champions in Rocky Pennington and Juliana Pena who are lingering, but you could use a player in this division. When was the last time you got excited, outside of the free agent pickup of Kayla Harrison, that there was a rising women's bantamweight who could potentially make noise? The question obviously is going to be how much noise. So how do you come off of this one performance? Like, will they be matching her quickly, or is this still going to take time in your eyes?
She's 33, 34. They're going to move this one quickly, I think. I don't know. The only thing for me remains the question is BC is how much her takedown translates at the higher end of this division. When the opponents have better balance, better takedown defense, better takedown defensive habits, are harder to get a hold of. Because there was some stuff where you're looking at what she did here and a little leaning too far this way and taking some risks that I don't know if other opponents might punish or not. But if she could solve that problem, BC, then I think. Again, Mackenzie Dern, she's only now getting good at ground and pound. And obviously, she has great submissions, but she had no takedowns and she had no ground and pound. Remember, she used to balance on her head from the back and then punch this way, like this totally mechanically awful way of trying to attack. You look what you saw from Mesquita. She's building in damage through positional advancement all the way right now. That's a much healthier sign.
Yeah, I was fairly impressed overall. And not only did she dispatch a Red Rocket Russian Ronda with ease, she then turned her exploits toward the American version. Let's listen to this sound.
11 years ago, you told me you considered doing the transition from jiu-jitsu to MMA to fight Ronda Rousey, and now 11 years later, you're fighting Russian Ronda at UFC Rio, and now there's talks of maybe Ronda Rousey coming back to MMA. Is that maybe a long time ago, and now it could come to a reality.
What a crazy coincidence. Huh? I'm a happy reminder. Well, I don't know who told she's the Russian Ronda Rousey, but well, if she says so, it's what she believes. But I proved that my takedowns is on point, and I mean, I'm a very big fan of true Ronda Rousey. She made history in the MMA, and she opened a lot of doors for all the women that are coming now, as well as me. So I respect a lot all her history and everything she did to the MMA women's be where it is today. So I really hope she come back. Everybody enjoy her fighting a lot, and I think that would be amazing. The armbar battle, even knowing that I didn't got my armbars yet, but who knows? Maybe fighting her, it's gonna come. I don't know. But I really respect her. I'm a big fan of everything she did, and I'm just happy if she's coming back. It's gonna be amazing for the MMA world and especially for the women.
Now, for the record, Ronda has not announced that she's coming back, but these training videos do seem to create some talk. The training videos, the shape she's in, the matter-of-fact way she's talking about rediscovering her love. But I don't think Bia would be on that opponent list right away. But it's interesting to think about. Luke Thomas, gun to your head, will Ronda Rousey ever fight in the octagon again?
Yeah, I think she will.
Wow.
I did not think I was ever going. Sorry, my laptop is dying and I'm trying to get the charge going here. I never ever thought I would say something like that, but I don't think she's coming back for nothing. This White House card, everything, it's just all too coincidental. And again, the way her MMA career ended was, given its heights, it ended in kind of this, like, I don't know, pretty ignoble way where she refused to even, like, I'm not even going to look at the MMA media. like we're your problem. Like, we're the ones who hurt you, you know? So I don't know. I think coming back from that, maybe I think she maybe will. Yeah.
She needs another Betch Kohea. Why don't we just give her Fiona?
You could do that. Yeah.
Is that the same weight class? I don't know.
I'm not sure
Yeah,
anymore.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just thinking out of my ass. All right. Let's keep it moving down this card, Luke. We did see some bangers in terms of big time finishes. What do you make here? Ultimately, well, first of all, Vitor Petrino at heavyweight now. Dude, that 2-punch knockout in round 3 of a chubby Thomas Peterson, dude, that should be a highlight we see again, man. That was some nasty stuff right there.
Yeah, you got him coming forward, so then he just kind of like flops like a sea lion.
Fantastic finish for a jack dude looking to reinvent himself.
Yep, got him that way.
The larger picture talk might come at heavyweight here from Mario Pinto of Portugal, but he's got a UK accent, and he definitely fooled Michael Bisping in the post-fight interview by saying he doesn't speak English, but he needed less than 2 rounds to get Jahanada Diniz out of there. Diniz nuts, Luke. What did you think about Pinto? Should we be looking at him as a riser in a shallow division?
Yeah, which was a fun little thing. He's Portuguese and Diniz is Brazilian, so they brought the Portuguese guy over to Brazil. The Brazilians apparently, by the way, shouts to Guilherme Cruz over at MMA Fighting. He was covering this event in both Portuguese and English, and I thought he did an amazing job. Really gave great coverage and helped people to understand a fight night better than they ordinarily would have. So in general, he was great. But he was talking about this fight, BC, and all like the anti-colonial things people in the audience were yelling at him, you know, which I thought was kind of funny. But dude, he looked pretty good. I mean, it was weird. He was like, I don't speak English. And then he was like, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. And I'm like, I don't know, brother. I think the English is pretty good.
Yeah.
But hey, undefeated. He fought in I would say this, the finishing mechanics on the paintbrush, the Americana, were real bad, which is why it didn't work. Because if the elbow comes up, there's nothing really torquing it. It has to come down this way, not like this, but like open and then like this and then that way. That's how you get it. Anyway, so that he needs a little bit of work. But heavyweight could use him. Let's say it that way. Yeah.
We can use anybody with a pulse right there. Let's talk about the featured prelim at featherweight, where all's well that Michael Aswell ends well. Got a first-round TKO victory over Lucas Almeida, but the MMA detectives on X all week were focusing on the obvious broken hand that Almeida was showing up to the press events with. He never threw that right hand in the bout that was stopped in the first round, and it felt like the referee was looking for this guy to go out like a warrior, Luke, like potentially to the terms of death. How does this even get sanctioned?
Here's what I just can't wrap my head around. How is it people on Twitter will know a guy is injured based off of making visible observations of their condition, typically, though not always, at weigh-in events, so either the ceremonial or the real one. This will affect betting lines, right? So now money is changing the way it is coming in one way or the other as a result of these observations. And then somehow all of that can happen, but the fight doesn't get called off either by the commission, who appears to be not aware of any of these things. I don't know if people who work at athletic commissions have cell phones, BC. Maybe they don't even have computers. I really don't know.
Well, dude, I get that you can hide like norovirus from a medical professional by not.
But this is being observed. This was people were talking about.
Don't you have to show your phalanges here and get inspected?
How did this happen? I don't, because he goes in there, he never throws that hand that's injured. He tries to throw out of southpaw. He gets tuned up quickly with right hands that were coming over the top. And, you know, he gets kind of polished off. And it's like, why? This fight should not have happened. Like, matter of factly, it should not have happened. And who was responsible for that is, I guess, the promoter, I guess the commission. I'm not sure how that's really supposed to go down. It's just insane to me that people in the commission are like, no, we don't see anything. It's like, dude, it's all over social media.
Yeah.
And the betting lines are moving. How are you not noticing this?
I mean, James Krause saw that. I'm wondering if Long Island Luke did. Did you follow the trends on this bet?
Unfortunately, I put my bets in on like Thursday, and I had an Almeida bet at plus 124 come fight night. He was like plus 250. Yeah, so yeah.
I also wanted to shout out strawweight Julia Pilastri of Brazil, who, man, she gave it to Karolina Kowalkiewicz, almost to the point where you're wondering if the 39-year-old Karolina should end it now. She was game as always, but the short punching power of Pilastri, who's in great shape, has a ground game. I'm wondering if we got someone here at strawweight. I think that's now her 5th straight win.
And also, how about this? Set the tone right away too with that body kick up the middle, and it had Kowalkiewicz going, ugh, you know what I mean? Right away was like, this is what it's going to be tonight. You know, you can figure out how you want to deal with it.
I got a dead wrong in real time, BC. She's 2-2 in the UFC, and that she was coming off a loss.
Oh, wow. I take that back then. The overexcitement, but she did look good in this fight. I should probably do my homework. Long Island Luke,
2 point. Lastly, Kowalkiewicz.
Yeah.
You know, she took a lot of abuse in this fight, and she tried to fight back with heart, but not a ton of ability. She's also got some questions to be asking about what's next.
I think it should be next. I think it should be it. But Long Island Luke, you are a master of the undercards, and they usually happen before your sobriety gets challenged. What else did you pick up on Saturday?
Not so much the undercard. It was on the main card, but my boy Con Offley, the Australian, got his first UFC win. He had the backpack on Ricardo Ramos there, choked him out. I mean, I was impressed with him. Not so impressed with the other Aussie, Stuart Nickel. He was kind of a little bit of a letdown there. Other than that, I feel like we covered Jafel Filio getting the Kimura on Clayton Carpenter. That was a good one.
Yeah, I was surprised that worked because he kind of gave it to him. He didn't have the arm straightened. He had the arm straightened, and then he just kind of put it down, and then the guy just reasserted the Kimura, and I was like, well, you fucking gave it to him, so...
The opening bout was interesting. Luan Lacerda, Simon Oliveira. Oliveira missed weight by 8 pounds. He had a rehydration clause. Have you guys ever seen that in MMA? I don't think I ever have, right?
I think those are starting to be new. If you miss weight, like in that kind of way,
yeah.
I liked that.
All right, that was UFC Rio. We'll put that one to bed. But I want to remind all you sports fans out there that football is back, and it's back in a big way, and so is your shot to win big with DraftKings Pick 6, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Your game day instincts can score you real money fast. Now, here's how you do it. You pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, from breakout rookies to elite quarterbacks and everyone in between, and unlock the upside that every snap brings. The better your calls are, the bigger your payout. And how about this for a kickoff bonus? New DraftKings customers get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry on your first pick set. So LT, let's put your knowledge to the test. We do have a Monday Night Football doubleheader tonight. Buffalo at Atlanta and Chicago at your Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels, more or less passing yards, 216.5 against the Chicago Bears of Ray Flores fame defense.
Yeah, I'll take the over on that. Please be serious. Jaden's about to carve these Bamas up. Let's go. Number 5 for the dub. Raise
Okay.
hail.
What about the idea here, Luke, of Jaden Daniels rushing stats, 46.5 more or less?
I'll take the over on that one as well. Yeah. I'm going to put his rushing somewhere between 60 to 70, and I'm going to put passing yards probably around 230 or more. So I think one way or the other, BC, he's going to be right around 300 yards of total offense. That's my official view.
And the Falcons and Michael Penix Jr. will be at home over or more or less on passing touchdowns, 1.5 for Penix Jr. of the Falcons. I'm going over here. It's time to put these Bills
I
away.
haven't watched enough of the Falcons to know, but I can definitely tell you about my Washington Commanders. They're gonna deal tonight.
All right. Why don't you tell the people how they can make some more money here?
All right, here's what you're gonna do, boys and girls. Here's what you're gonna do. As BC indicated, you're going to pick more or less on 2 of the player stats. And again, we told you about all the Jaden Daniels ones, and that's going to unlock the upside every snap brings. The better your calls, the bigger the payout. So here's the kickoff bonus. New DraftKings customers get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry on your first pick. This season, play your player instincts. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use the code COMBAT. That's COMBAT with a K. Play just $5, get $50 in Pick 6 bonus picks. Make the call, ride the upside in partnership with DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus, age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, let's slide it over to topic number 4. In 6 months, after a unified boxing welterweight titles with a one-sided demolition of unbeaten Imantas Staniotis, Philadelphia's own Jaron Boots Ennis was at home on Saturday on DAZN, also making his debut at 154 pounds. Now, it wasn't without controversy from the standpoint of the matchmaking. His opponent, Uisma Lima, came in with a hard-punching reputation as a career junior middleweight, but not the experience gap in terms of the advantages that Jaron Ennis had, and nothing close to the athleticism. In the end, it was a destructive 2-knockdown first-round TKO win for Boots Ennis, who offensively looked like a nightmare, switching stances, landing a lead uppercut to hurt Lima before a beautiful 2-punch combo put him away. Lima tried to last, but this was ultimately a statement performance. Now, the question is, how big of a statement? Because you did have longtime boxing scribes like Dan Rayfield just rightfully railing against this fight all week, which could take away from the idea that this was some big announcement at 154. However you look at the opponents and the matchmaking here, though, it was a big announcement because the fight to make, even though neither have a world title at 154, is Jaron Boots Ennis against unbeaten Vergil Ortiz Jr. Ortiz is going to have to get through the always tough Erickson Lubin in November, but this is shaping up to be a fight that boxing fans are going to need to see. First, let's show the finish here on a camera taken from the crowd of what Boots did to Lima. Luke, 6,000 people in the Wells Fargo Center.
But I thought it was 9.
Or was 9? That sounded like an inferno once they got cooking in there. How much are you going to separate the fact that this was a unnecessary, meaningless marination, but yet our boy Boots, and we've been watching him a long time, dude, he looked like $1 million in there.
Who gives a shit? This fight was ridiculous. This was a waste of everybody's time. Yeah. And the reason why you know that is, like, first of all, this was never, I know there were some jabronis who were trying to talk themselves into, like, no, this guy can actually box. No, the fuck he can't. First of all, not certainly not on any level that mattered for Saturday. We knew that going in. This was a fight that never needed to happen. He didn't need a tune-up to go to 54, not one like this. We're now 35 years into his career, and his best wins are Chukadzan and Staniosis, which are fine B-level fighters. He doesn't have a single A or A- fucking win on his entire career. And BC, here's how you know this is meaningless. This is the shit he was doing when we were working at Showtime against better guys than this, by the way, or certainly just as good. We already know he can do this. Okay, he didn't do it at 154. It doesn't matter. We knew he could do this kind of thing to this level of opponent. Moving up a weight class is not that revelatory if the test isn't sufficiently difficult. It doesn't have to be the most difficult one, your first 54 up, but it had to be better than this. The fact that he blew him out in a round is not evidence that, oh my God, Thanos just took over and beat up the Hulk. No, it was evidence of a fight that was an absolute sham that did not need to be made, that you learned nothing in. Actually was fucking dude, the balls on Matchroom to ask for money for that is insane. If the fans in Philadelphia, BC were happy because, Jaron Ennis, the lion ate the gazelle, great. I understand that. I don't begrudge them that. And I'm not saying, BC, that Jaron doesn't have elite ability. I was once a big believer, and I'm still willing to be again. ... Once he starts fighting people of enough threat or challenge, which he's still 35 fights in, not doing.
Yeah, 28 years old. Hearn talked a big game afterwards, calling him the future pound for pound king and saying that this is what happens when you get out of a weight class that you're, cutting down so aggressively that he estimated that Boots was only 60 or 70% of what he can do. The problem is, like you mentioned, we had that completely unnecessary rematch at welterweight against Karin Chukadzin just for Boots to hold on to the titles in a mandatory, which showed the ridiculousness of current boxing. But so did this fight to really marinate this so unnecessarily. I'm happy for Boots. He looked great. By the way, Hearn said they're willing to match him with anybody from 154 to 168, Luke, which is bold. But here's Eddie Hearn talking about the future for Jaron Ennis.
Spread out promotionally. You have to pay the money, and you have to hope that people have ambition to take on the best and create a legacy and fight other champions and fight the best in the game. We're in a really good spot right now where we have the biggest TV contract in American boxing, in the real boxing world. And for us, we need to work with other promoters to make sure that we can make those fights. But I have to admit, we need the fighters to have the ambition to try and be the best. And I just hope they're full of that ambition. I hope they want to chase legacy, but we do have to pay them a lot of money. And we realised that with Stanionis, because we were under pressure to deliver the Stanionis fight. And he was the best welterweight in the world outside of Boots. We paid up, we got the fight, he destroyed him. We've got to do the same at 154.
And just one follow-up question for you. I asked Boots this question a few weeks ago. When we talk about Zayas has made mention of if he's going to defend, he wants to defend in Puerto Rico. You've been in Puerto Rico before. Would you entertain that? Would you take Boots to Puerto Rico?
Yeah, but I think he means more of a homecoming fight.
Sure.
Listen, Xander Zayas against Boots, Puerto Rico weekend, Madison Square Garden. Have some of that.
Let's go. Yeah.
All of Philly will come up to MSG for that fight. Zayas is a great young fighter. I believe Zayas has ambition to test himself with the best.
I want to ask you that. What's the bigger?
Now, Boots called out all the champions afterwards at 54, which is Xander Zayas, Sebastian Fundora, and Bakram Murtazaliev. Unfortunately, Luke, this fight even being booked against Lima is sort of another, like, boxing can't get out of their own way in the second half of this year, and it sucks. And to see Fundora pull out of that October 25th pay-per-view against Keith Thurman with the hand injury only adds to that suckage. And then we did see Hearn's team, by the way, say publicly that they reached out to Keith Thurman and he didn't want anything to do with Boots. I don't know if that's true, but that's not great. Not great stuff. But if we look, Ortiz versus Lubin, that's a very good fight that we need. If it leads to Ortiz versus Boots, then this is a fight worth setting up plans for and watching comfortably and enjoying, because these are two of the best in this game, two unbeatens before they even reach the title level at 54. I'm all for it, but enough of this marination. Come on, people. All right.
This was ridiculous, and I can't believe anyone's saying anything other than that. Yeah, Jaron's great. He's really great, but he's got to. I mean, we're nearly 40 fights in, and you haven't fought one A-level guy. Come on.
Yeah. All right. There's a couple other combat sports one-hitters that we can we can smoke through here. Bill, how about Luke? Speaking of big John McCarthy, how about this? He announced that he has stepped down from the Weighing In podcast with Josh Thompson, and that now that his body is healed, he will be back to refereeing. He already made his return on more of the regional level last weekend and put out a post on social media talking about just how good it felt to be back doing what he loved. It was the sort of physical setbacks that originally took him out of that job. This is a welcome development for the officiating world. Nobody's been a part of more big fights, literally going back to UFC 2 than Big John McCarthy. Luke, do you think we'll see him on the highest level from PFL to UFC once he gets back on a regular basis?
I hope. It's not like I've agreed with every call that any one officiant has made. They win some, they lose some, but it's just very hard for me to look at what we just had a conversation about the state of refereeing. It's very difficult for me to believe, looking at the state of things, that you can add McCarthy to the mix and this is not an improvement. Again, that doesn't mean he's going to have all great calls. No referee does. But as a general observation, yeah, refereeing, I think, could certainly use his help.
Yeah, I love Big John. It's fair to say he's the greatest referee of all time, right?
And certainly, well, there's some debate about that, but I would say maybe the most impactful because of the role he played in helping to shape the rules to begin with, and how many seasons of MMA he's observed. It's given him a bit of a different perspective
for a lot of that. I mean, he was almost all of that. It wasn't like you were looking for him to lose his job at any point.
That's right. Yeah.
Luke, let's talk quickly about one championship, which we don't talk about a lot these days. Marcelo Garcia versus Lachlan Giles. That's been booked for December 5th of this year in Bangkok. The match will be part of One Fight Night 38 at Lumpini Stadium and will be contested at 170 pounds. Why should we care?
Well, first of all, I think it's Lumpini Stadium.
Yeah.
The two major stadiums in Muay Thai are Rajadamnern and Lumpini, which are the two.
Everybody knows that. Yeah.
Well, you didn't know that?
I mean, I haven't tried to know that. No, I haven't. I haven't made it a priority.
Well, I don't know much about kickboxing, but Muay Thai, but I do know that Rajadamnern and Lumpini. Anyway, dude, Marcelo Garcia, if not the greatest no-gi grappler of all time, certainly number 2. Lachlan Giles, I mean, an absolute master of the half guard and Kimura and a million other things. He's certainly one of the very, very best. These are two going to be close to the same weight class. They're both retired, but they're both still viable as fun entities. That one. That's dude, Tom DeBlas, that's good matchmaking. It's great matchmaking.
We'll be looking for that December 5th in Bangkok. Also from this UFC Rio broadcast, Josh Van's teammate Michael Aswell, during the post-fight interview, seemed to matter-of-factly leak the Alexandre Pantoja-Josh Van title fight taking place on the December 6th final UFC pay-per-view card of 2025 in Las Vegas. Luke, does he get any talking to from the company for doing that?
Probably.
I thought all speech is protected, including hate speech.
Yeah. I mean, that's a well. If you want to post on your Instagram stories about how much you love the Nazis, they'll let that rock.
That dude is getting a lot of attention. What's that guy's name?
AJ Cunningham, I think. Is that right? Long Island Luke. Did I get the name right? Yeah. I mean, can you believe that is not somehow? Do you know how deranged it is that's not disqualifying?
But did he qualify with pre or post meth when he made those comments?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if this was pre-meth or not. Yeah. It's really an important qualifier. But dude, the state of the sport. I mean, oh my God. Anyway, last thing on this is, so that's the thing that we're kind of expecting for UFC 323 is that you're expecting Pantoja to be in there in that some either main or how would people feel if that's a main, right? They'd be bitter, right? They'd be bitter.
They would be. They'd feel like they're mailing it in for the tail end of the UFC deal.
Guys, I don't know if they're gonna. I'm not saying that they will. I'm saying at least have that in mind as a possibility.
Maybe they're saving the good ones for Paramount, Luke.
I think they're definitely doing that. They're definitely doing that. But, if some of these guys are saying no, and if some of these guys are injured, it complicates the timelines there too. They need a lot of volunteers.
Yeah, certainly does. Former heavyweight champion of boxing, Deontay Wilder, says he's coming back in January and has a quote about it. Quote, "I've signed the contract already. I can't give no details at this point, but it's definitely live. It's going to happen. I got a big year next year. I'm looking forward to it. All I can say is 2-time. Let's go." Any guesses on who it will be or who it should be or who you want it to be?
I want it to be, dude, he already has the statue. He already kissed it. He already made a gazillion dollars to fight Dominique Breazeale. Like, just go enjoy life. Why are you doing this? Is he still with Malik
Scott? I don't
Scott.
think so. Actually, I don't know. I don't think Malik Scott was with him when he had that comeback fight in June, but I could be wrong.
Anyway, here's what I want. I want for him retirement, and this bums me out. I'm just hoping he lets me down easy. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it could be Francis Ngannou. Would you hate that?
Fire up the chainsaw, I guess. Let's fucking do it. I mean, I guess I am. I mean, I'm a degenerate. I guess I am. You know, I shouldn't be, but I guess I am.
Even sadder news to close here, Luke, is former 2-division UFC champion BJ Penn is continuing his unfortunate mental downfall here. This comes from Perry Punch News. Developing, a judge has ordered BJ Penn to undergo a mental health exam to determine if he is mentally fit and penally responsible for several criminal charges against him, including alleged abuse of a family member, violating a temporary restraining order, and refusing to comply with a police officer. If found not fit to proceed, Penn could be released to the custody of Hawaii and placed in a treatment facility. He is due back in court on January 9th, and those updates come from Hawaii News Now. Luke, everything about this is super sad. It does not appear, I'm no expert, like he is mentally sound, and that this has been a big part of the downfall for him as a civilian in recent years, and all the posts on social media and all the accusations of his family members being killed and replaced with imposters. I don't know where you go from here. I really don't.
Everyone, I'm not saying they should look at this news and be like, oh, this is great news. I feel so great about it. That's not what this news does. But let me tell you something. There's a lot of people with mental illness who don't have people who care about them, pushing for them to get the kind of services or evaluations that are necessary to protect them from themselves. And BJ is. And it's not great if he ends up in the custody of, various entities, state or otherwise, that have to monitor his mental health. And to your point, BC, I'm also not an expert in mental health. But I don't know, like, it doesn't take a genius to look at this and say this is clearly in need of proper medical evaluation so a determination can be made. And I tend to think that there will be one that's made that requires some level of oversight, let's say. And DC, I'm going to say it again. There are so many people who don't have someone advocate for them, who don't have brothers, sisters, parents with money, legal resources, the ability to lean on the state to force these kinds of issues. They don't have these kinds of things, and they fall through the cracks. At least BJ has this going for him at this stage of what is obviously an incredibly tragic and terrible scenario.
I'm hoping that this is a wake-up call to matchmakers, and they're in the UFC promotion too, because when BJ was on that 8-fight losing skid that was only equaled by Tony Ferguson's a few years later, no one thought he was going to create some type of comeback, and even if he got a win, it would only lead to a larger step up and potentially more damage. I really feel like even with great legends, once we hit a certain point where it's over, just end it, just end the career. And I don't know what that means for them financially afterwards, but how much of this was deeper activated by being in fights he shouldn't have been and taking finished losses. I have the same fear for Tony Ferguson's boxing career, even though he just scored sort of a triumphant victory right there. There's only so much the human, mind and body can take here. Same thing with Wilder, to be fair, Luke. We're not as advanced here in the dangerous realm, but we've seen a lot of bad endings in combat sports. I wish there was another way that these great athletes could make money. I wish those same UFC sweetheart deals that like Matt Hughes used to get and Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonner that went away with the sale in 2016. I wish we could bring those back in a lot of ways,
Yeah, I mean, the UFC did have a deal. I don't know what the state of it is, where they had a BJ Penn branded UFC gym in Hawaii. There might even be like a few of them that were BJ Penn branded. Obviously, that would make a bunch of sense to partner with a local legend in that way.
Sure.
He comes from wealth. BJ, this is what I mean. BJ's family comes from wealth. So like, it's not in his case a question of are there enough resources to help? But the question is, can they be applied effectively in a scenario where a person is having a mental episode or is potentially even now too far gone? These are separate questions. But to your point more broadly, I think everyone should take a look in the mirror. Like, dude, there is an expiration date on this shit. And if you're Vicente Luque, I'm not telling you, like, if you keep competing, oh, you're going to end up just like this or just like that. We don't know that. But we know that there are enough risk factors where you don't even want to get close to that conversation.
Yeah.
And if you're, and BJ won at the very highest level, you know what I mean? You can at least say, what did he achieve? A lot. He achieved a lot. I mean, if you're not doing that kind of a thing, why are you sacrificing your health so willingly? Don't do that.
Yeah, one day you're going to be walking down a dark alley and Mark Sanchez is going to be there. You know, it's not cool. It's not fair. Hey, this podcast is sponsored. Sorry, excuse me. This podcast is sponsored by Total Wireless, the official wireless partner of UFC. And when you're streaming the fights or sharing those takedown highlights with your boys, you need a wireless provider that keeps you close to the action. Well, with Total Wireless, you're covered on the Verizon 5G network, so you don't have to worry about your connection being knocked out at the biggest moments. And while it's not normally something you can say, hey, my wireless provider, they're in my corner 24/7. They got my back. The thing is, with Total Wireless, they do. They keep you covered for just $25 a month. That's with 4 lines, but you're not sacrificing the essentials like speed. Instead, with Total, you get unlimited 5G data, so you can stay ahead of the action and keep up with every knockout. And Total understands better than anybody that just like fighters, you can't take the shots you don't see coming. That's why Total Wireless will guarantee your price for 5 years, taxes and fees included. The best fighters, no, they don't make it to the championship level without that all-in support behind them. It shouldn't be any different when we're talking about your wireless provider. So visit TotalWireless.com right now or head on to your local Total Wireless store to learn more about how Total Wireless can be in your corner. 5G access requires a 5G capable device in a 5G service area. Monthly rate on the Total Base 5G Unlimited plan for new subscribers applies only to the monthly rate for your plan. Additional terms apply. See the website for more details. All right, that'll wrap up our topics on this Monday. But now every Sunday night, you know what we do? We give you the opportunity to be heard at Morning Kombat on X and the IG. The questions are open. Fill them up. Here we go. This one's called DMs from Donks. It's disturbing, to say the least, to hear that noise. Here's Kevin _Mitchell _79. Why doesn't the UFC invest in a physical Hall of Fame that stands alone to the public? Currently, it resides on the staircase of the first and second floors of the Vegas Performance Institute. I think the fans deserve a museum at this point to honor the sport, since it's now a global entity and has been for some time. Luke, I think this, you can say the same thing about the WWE Hall of Fame. And even though the International Boxing Hall of Fame, which you can visit right off the highway in Canastota, New York, is not overly impressive. It's a very small building. It's got very cool stuff in it, but you'll get through that cool stuff in about 25 minutes. I feel like with the growing empire of the Performance Institute, the UFC headquarters, the expanded Apex, if they just put a little thing together that they can keep open during daytime hours and charge fight fans $5 to come in and see history, I think that's a win-win, right?
I believe that this is a no-brainer. You could even put it next to the Apex and have its own little thing where, for example, I went on a family vacation in BC. We went to Lisbon, Portugal, and we stayed right next to the Benfica stadium. And we just, for like €5, we took a tour of the stadium and all the rich history of that club, and you know what, where everything, who the best players were in the big years, and they let you sit in like the press area, and it's just so much fun. And I'm not, I don't know anything about Benfica all that much. I just wanted to see some European football history. That's all it was, and it was €5, and it was great. It was a great day. They can't have a physical hall where, how big could it be? It's okay. Well, there's some debate about that. But they've got the money. They've got the land. They just have to have the willingness and a museum curator type of level talent to set it all up. But I think that would make a lot of sense, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I really do. Let's continue it on. Here's from It's Not Cage Fighting, but the only thing is, though, it is cage fighting. Which location would you like the UFC to go back to, which they haven't visited for a while? We're talking 5 years or more. So, Luke, are you itching for UFC Moncton to return?
No.
All right. I'm sure the Paquettes would have been there, though, right? Probably.
Yeah.
All
yeah,
of them.
I'm
including Chef Mark.
interested. I mean, I'm not sure what I'm not sure what I'm in. I mean, dude, you know what I want them to do? I want them to go to Hawaii. That's where I want
do
them
too.
to go.
Yes.
That's kind of where my head is at these days.
What about DC? What is their history there outside of that Virginia?
Well, the White House is
arena?
coming up. I mean,
that's true right there. Would you like to see an annual DC stop, or is it the fact that you're embarrassed about how rude the service providers are in terms of like Starbucks cashiers in your city?
I mean, you know, I'm sorry that your armpit fart jokes didn't bring the house down when you were ordering your double caramel macchiato.
Yeah.
No, I don't need to see that. I think, you know, they're in New York City once a year. That's important. You know, they don't need to come to DC in that kind of way. Go to places that need you. That's what MMA should be doing.
Yeah, I'm not itching for them to come to Connecticut. It's not really a great spot for a big.
Well, I mean, Connecticut's a shithole. I mean, let's just be honest.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I'd like more Boston PLEs, Luke. All right.
Why Boston?
I mean? There's a certain energy there, right? Remember McGregor, Seaver? Remember some like big fights we've seen there? I'd like to see a great New England city like Boston get more. What about you, Long Island, Luke? I'm sure you're going to say like that theater in Huntington where Chris Algieri used to box.
Paramount. Let's go.
Yeah.
No, I will say, like, I mean, Long Island, baby, they were at UBS Arena like 3 years ago, but
wasn't that when Gastelum got Weidmaned?
No, that was at Nassau Coliseum in 2017. I was there for that.
Okay.
No, the last one was Brian Ortega Yair, and it ended in a no contest. It was
That's
bad.
right. That's right.
Fuck, what came to mind? Melbourne, Australia. I think the last time they were there is the poster behind me. Izzy Whitaker won. So that was 2019. I mean, you got to go back to Melbourne.
Is paying too much. That's the problem.
They are. And they go to Sydney occasionally, but never Melbourne. So
I'd like you and your dad to go to a live fight down under.
I mean, I'm down.
With Dennis Skrodatov.
We're down, dude. We'll do it.
All right. The next one comes from Michael Simon XO. Thank you for the kisses and hugs there, Michael. What do you guys think about one of my current fighters, Sean Brady, essentially wasting his prime? He's brilliant, yet he's fought once a year since 22 and is on pace to fight only once this year. I know people are ducking him, but sometimes you have to fight down in the rankings to stay relevant. Well, the problem is he's so damn close to either a title fight or a number one contender fight that you don't want to waste that, do you?
No, I mean, it's a tough situation because, yeah, I agree. Fighting once a year, unless you're Gary Russell Jr., is just very much inadvisable. But at the same time, when you're this is the problem. Then you get close enough, and you're like, I can't fuck this up, and so you end up making like very careful decisions, and then the whole thing gets jacked up. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I hope Sean Brady gets back out there. I hope we get the top of this division figured out from me and Gary to all these guys. Number 4 comes from Skylar_Lurwill. Skylar Lurwill. BC, you're looking good as the prop quiz champ. Thank you. However, you have some serious contenders lined up, including Ben the Bane Davis and Aaron Bronstetter. How do you like your chances to retain your title? So I've yet to see the Ben the Bane episode against Oscar Willis in their rematch of their BKFC fight, but I did hear that Ben created a short-lived record for most points. I will say this, though. When I watched Abron put it on Chuck Mindenhall and extend that record, I was a little nervous. I mean, LT, we've seen great stories of people falling into a title. Michael Bisping at UFC 199. But then we saw GSP come in there and humble that. I don't want to get GSP'd by Abron here. So I'm wondering if Long Island Luke, can I invoke any champ status shit to, like, you know, pick and choose, or how is this going to work?
I think I'm going to do another bracket. So I may have Ben the Bane and Abron go head to head. And then obviously there's going to be 2 other matchups on the other side of the bracket. And then maybe the winner of the bracket faces you. It's still working in my head, BC, but you do have, I mean, if you want to face someone specifically, we can make it happen. You know?
No, I want to play it fair, but you know, Abron had like no emotion. He was like a killer in that episode. He
knew everything. He also no hesitation. People bitch, I need a shot clock all the time. Not with Abron, man. He knew everything.
This is, you know, for all the talk about him being a varsity athlete, this is his wheelhouse. This is where he is a stud of studs until I accidentally beat him. All right. Because if you think I'm going out like that, right? Luke Thomas, what do you think? I accidentally beat 3 very, very intelligent gentlemen in this series.
Yeah, but it's not an intelligence test. It's a trivia knowledge test. You can just prep for that.
All right. All right.
Seriously, you can just prep for something like that. You know, if it was
Right.
actually an IQ test and you can't really prep for, I mean, you can prep a little bit, but for a rote memorization test, that's just practice.
You know what? I'm going to bring out basketball, BC. That's what I'm going to do.
Hell
all right?
yeah.
Let's
Hell
get
yeah.
dirty
Let's
with
see
this
it.
thing. All right. I'm going to start, making prank calls to Bronstetter's house the night before to get in his head. How about that? All right.
Pull the fire alarm at the hotel. That's what the
I'm
soccer
saying
hooligans
right
do.
there. All right. No, I love Abron, but shout out to him. I'm coming for you. If you end up there, I'm coming for you, Abron. All right. Thank you very much. Our final one comes from AAA 1017. So if there was a y'all must have forgot Mount Rushmore of fighters who just continue to never go away when we write them off, who is on it? This man likes Oliveira, Magny, Arlovsky, and he needs help with the fourth. I mean,
Dude,
Jim Miller has refused to go.
Couture was written off
Yes.
multiple times,
including on this show for that 12 o'clock guest appearance.
Yeah, I mean, he might be here today. We never know. The ghost of Randy Cooter just floats in the ether. You never know when he's going to show up. But in all seriousness, BC, dude, I remember. This is, again, I'm an old piece of shit, but
yeah,
I distinctly recall the media cycle before he returned out of, because he got sent to oblivion by Chuck for the second time. He hangs it up. I'm fucking done. And then Tim Sylvia is on this roll where, Tim Sylvia looks like a newborn giraffe, but he's 6'9". He's a fucking tough guy to fight. Couture is, training with Eric Pele. What's his face? Eric Pele. Yeah, the big heavyweight. He's training with a bunch of these dudes over at his gym. And you're like, dude, he is going to get fucking wiped out. And then he goes, and then the whole media cycle was about all this shit. And then he goes in there and just bodies Tim Sylvia. I'm telling you, that is the king of comebacks after being written off.
That is very true right there. He mentioned some good names. You got to say Jim Miller. I mean, have we ever written off Jim Miller, or is it just he's here because of the
He's just kind of, I don't think we wrote him off per se, but he's just kind of lingered with relevancy. Arlovsky, Arlovsky was written off.
Yes,
for sure.
Many times along that journey. No doubt about that. All right. Good stuff there. Those are DMs from Donks. And a reminder, you can reach the program by emailing morningkombat@gmail.com for Friday's Dead Wrongs and fan subs, and to possibly show Mikey your piece. But I did want to say publicly, longtime friend of the program, backbone of the program, former producer of the program, the great Mikey Morms, he just got engaged to his lovely fiancee Donna while in Italy. So much love from the MK community to one of the great ones there, a cannabis aficionado, to say the very least. Yeah,
he's probably high right now.
I hope so. I hope he's eating spaghetti right now somewhere.
By the way, I have a bit of an update on that.
On Mikey's spaghetti intake? Yeah.
No, on weed. So you have to have a card. You have to have a medical card in DC, and mine expired. And I was like, oh, I have to go back to it's like going to the goddamn DMV. I don't want to do this again, But then they legalized it in Maryland, and all you need is just a government issued ID. So I was like, well, if I don't mind, let's get behind the wheel of the car here and let's drive. Dude, Maryland is it's a mile from here. I just drive right over the line and then you go
Oxon Hill.
That's a little bit further away, but to Hyattsville or the surround.
Yeah, Hyattsville. Hyattsville.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was like, this is great. I don't have to get my license renewed. Thank God.
All right, our final segment here on the Monday is the one you've been waiting for, the one where I scour the globe for the highs and lows, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the in-between in the world of combat sports and beyond. Luke, somebody posted on MK Reddit that they're sick of this segment. It should be retired and killed. Your thoughts?
I don't agree, but I do think you need a little bit of a cattle prod in the rear end to get the paddles out here a little bit.
Yeah, just go full 9/11, BC. Why are you holding back anymore? All right, that's great. This one's called Have You Seen This Shit? All right. Now, Luke, I can't show you the footage of her walking to the prep point Saturday night. This is Russian Rocket, Red Ronda, Arena Alexieva, and doing Johnny Walker type twerking. But I got a few videos here on why Russian Ronda is my new favorite crazy person in MMA. Here is her getting ready at the weigh-in. I mean, look, this is great stuff right here, right? No? What do you make of her tats? Can you rate them?
Very Tanya Evinger vibes a little bit here. I mean, she's spirited, you know.
She's very spirited. If you go a little bit deeper on her IG, it gets more spirited. Here's
Yeah, I'm not
Russian
doing that.
Ronda dancing in a purple mink coat with some very subtle S&M vibes coming out of these bodybuilders. I don't know what we're doing here, Luke, but this is interesting. Your thoughts?
This is deeply uncomfortable.
Well, I said very subtle.
The only thing that could have made that worse is if the cake lady showed up and started eating them.
Yeah, like the Rizzler came out and she took his head and it was really cake and she started eating it. Yeah. Those were subtle S&M vibes. Here's full on S&M from Russian Ronda.
Okay. This is, you know, maybe MK Reddit has a point here. What the fuck are we? It says "love me" on her chest.
It does. It does. Yes.
I don't.
I'm a big fan. Okay. She's kind of like the female Slava Claus. You got to see her when she's fighting. You got to see it. Long Island Luke, you were the one that got me onto the Red Rocket Russian Ronda train.
I was going to say, BC joined my watch along once when she was fighting and became a huge fan. I texted BC during that fight and was like, yo, Russian Ronda's fighting.
He's like, come join the stream. Yeah. How did you not tell me on Friday's MK that she was back?
We glossed right over it because we were talking about her opponent, Bia Mesquita, and we just forgot to mention her. But yeah.
I didn't know her real name. Unbelievable. All right, here's your relatable moment of the week, Luke.
I can neither confirm nor deny the details. Although I work from home, so that's more like lunch break than it would be.
Yeah,
you know.
all right.
Like, hey, look, what are you going to do the first hour? MK's off. I don't know.
I might divinals myself. Here's your father of the week, Luke. I think we call this man Cowboy Cromartie.
How many children do you have?
23, 22 baby mother. Real bad man.
I don't know if we saw anything there, did we?
We saw a man who has fathered a lot of children with different women.
Oh, okay. My screen was blank, so I don't know that.
Oh, yes, we saw a gentleman who bragged about having 23 kids with 22 baby mothers. He's
a real man, Luke.
Yeah, this guy, he doesn't love condoms. Big no condom guy.
So far, I would support that this segment needs to come to an end. But hey, it's regional MMA time where anything can happen. Let's check out this European MMA brawl in Germany.
What the fuck? And there's a guy with a Palestine flag. I don't know what's happening there.
Gentlemen, we're live on CBS.
And here's Gus Schott said, boys, these things happen in MMA sometimes.
Wow.
What is this over? What is the oh Jesus, there's no cage security at all. They're just jumping right over the top.
This is like Conor versus Habib all over again. Wow. I don't know if that's KSW. I don't know, Luke. That's the Polish one, right? Yeah, there's mayhem. All right. Hey, let's keep it going. On the regional scene, the no nonsense Keith Peterson had a lot of nonsense after this backflip caught him. Oh, he is not happy.
Oh. Yeah, well, yeah, chill out. He's telling him to chill out. Finally, Keith Peterson's, you know what? Just giving more warnings, though.
Yeah, no points taken away.
The king of warnings. Hey, don't you do it, or what? Or don't you do it. All right.
Look, this is from 2024 from One Championship. Watch this losing fighter go after the ref.
Oh, yeah. Get in that. There you go. Got the knee bar going.
He tapped, Luke. You see that?
Oh, wait, go back and show it again. Hold on. Whoa. Okay, so after the ref intervenes, okay, just pay attention to the ref. All right, now pay attention to the opponent who won. Watch this. Look at him. Come around. Watch this. He's like mocking his dead, oh, look at this fucking bitch, like, oh, God.
I mean, did you see Julia Polastri do the whole Tito Ortiz burying bit after she stopped Kovacevic? That was too far, Luke.
Yeah, it's like, no, you got to really like hammer them in the first round to do that.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a deeper look inside the Green Bay Packers coordinator's coach's box. All right. There's a couple gentlemen there. Yep. Maybe.
Oh yeah, brother.
Little re-rack. You never hurt anybody, Luke. Okay.
Yeah. A little crotch itch,
Yep. It's time for MMA fighters in the wild. Here's a great Bushido moment. Alex Pereira showing up at a Brazilian gym that has his name on the wall and just getting mobbed by children, Luke.
You know, I'm glad that I finally reached a point in my life where I find the joy of children amusing.
Yes, yes.
It wasn't always a thing in my life, but now it's a big one, and this is just awesome. This is just great. It's just the best.
Fantastic. We saw another MMA fighter in the wild, Conor McGregor, playing barefoot basketball, and it went about as well as you would think it would. Look at that form. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. He took the back.
We don't have to do that stuff with it. By the way, just never mind. This is fine. Go ahead.
All right. We also have Khalil Roundtree Jr. showing up on the Jackson podcast, talking about how crazy Merab is.
Merab in the gym, it's really hard to say that he's any different in the gym than he is in the cage.
Really?
I promise you this is a 100% true story. At 12 o'clock in the afternoon on fight day, Saturday, October 4th, Merab sparred 5 rounds in the cage. Live on the day of his fight, because that's just who he is.
That's unreal.
Yes.
5 full live rounds.
5 full live rounds at 12 o'clock, not even half a day before he has to be in the arena to put on the biggest fight of his career. That's just him. You cannot make it up. So to be around that, I mean, it's just another experience. You know, most guys will sit in the hotel room or try to collect their thoughts or do whatever, you know, maybe even get like a bike ride in on the assault bike to kind of burn some energy. I've never in my life seen somebody spar 5 full rounds the day that they have to fight and go do another 5 full rounds with Cody Sandhagen. So like, yeah, it's just, he's a different breed.
Luke, how do you even explain that?
I don't know how you, I don't know. That's just like, I don't even know what that is. That's just absolutely without press. I mean, I've heard of guys having, you know, hitting mitts for a couple of rounds early in the day, stuff like that, you know, getting the sweat out, but not 5-minute rounds. That, like, I just don't know how it's possible to recover like that. I don't know how it's possible to stay fresh like that. He's beyond description in that regard. He's unlike any fighter in MMA history.
To close here, Luke, Joanna Champion was in Brazil over the weekend, but recently her and her twin Kasia celebrated their 38th birthday. What do you think, Luke? Double date?
Is the cake lady going to eat these two?
Congratulations to him, Luke, right?
Sure.
All right. That's great. It's time for our Big Brown report. Luke, you've mentioned a lot lately about how gym wars and sparring wars can definitely shorten your career. Did you see what Brendan Schaub told Joe Rogan recently?
What was the worst injury you ever went into a fight with?
I got knocked out 3 days before I fought Nogueira.
Oh, my God.
And I got knocked out 4 days before I fought Rothwell.
Oh, my God.
Shane Carwin, sorry.
Oh, my God. That is so irresponsible.
That's rough, right?
Is that new?
I hadn't heard it before, but that's rough, dude.
Well, first of all, I can believe that the guys at Grudge back in the day with Shane Carwin, someone asked me on my live chat last week, I forgot to say this at the time, but they're like, who are some of the scariest punchers in MMA history? And, you know, Francis Ngannou would be one. Dude, fucking Shane Carwin would be another one. A terrifying puncher.
Yes.
And for Schaub having to spar that guy all the time, I'm not surprised. I would not be surprised if what he's saying there is absolutely accurate. Those guys were vicious back in the day.
You have to wonder how much that affected his losses in those fights. Seriously, right?
I mean, you know, he wasn't, and also like Nogueira was not a bullshit puncher himself. You know, he could do it. And yeah, dude, like, how can you win at that level if you're getting starched that? And why are you sparring that hard?
I don't know. I mean,
but that's the problem too. Carwin has Carwin had like comical levels of power, you know.
Well, I mean, we just heard Merab was sparring 5 rounds on the day of a title fight.
Fair point. Yeah, fair point.
Speaking of Schaub, Luke, Drive Fast Eat Ass had another truck giveaway. Let's see the result here.
Okay, what are we doing here?
Okay, all right.
Is this a real thing?
Yeah.
I eat ass. I need to buy this vehicle.
Yes.
I'm gonna take Tukey to school in the I eat ass vehicle. She'll love that.
Luke, are you a fan of white rappers?
Some, I suppose.
All right, what about this guy?
His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom spaghetti.
I'm kind of done with that guy, Luke.
Yeah, he needs to be bullied more, which is difficult because he's great at jiu-jitsu, but his shtick sucks. Can we just be honest about that? He got his ass kicked in that debate with Craig Jones, and his shtick is fucking lame. He's very good at jiu-jitsu, though. Very good.
Luke, do you remember your number one undisputed, most exciting Christmas gift you got as a child?
Probably this when I was like 7th grade. This the first time I got a bike that had gears like the on the left and right side.
You're like freedom. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's look in on these kids.
No way! A Saddam Hussein rookie card! Thanks, Santa! This is gonna be worth a fortune someday!
I'm glad we're eating up natural resources so kids can have Saddam Hussein rookie cards to play on stupid shows like this one.
All right. Hey, time for your poetry of the week. Let's listen in.
Roses are red. I was finna go to bed, but
Not tonight, sweetheart. Give me that head.
Not bad. Not bad right there.
I've never been a big Lee Corso guy, but he works in limited circumstances.
He does. He does. Luke, you love gender reveals. Let's rate this one from Dolphins player Jalen Phillips and his significant other.
Is there a
3,
plane that's going to fly overhead?
2, 1, blast off.
Okay.
Wow.
It's like we're going to murder like 5 natural ecosystems. All those trees, all the birds who live there are dead, so that you could just announce what sex it was, which is just a thing you can normally do.
It's a boy, it turns out, Luke. Let's go to this next one. What
great.
do you rate? How do you rate this one? We got a balloon.
She has an interesting build.
All right, looks like it's a girl, Luke.
You know what? I rethink everything I've ever said about gender reveals, and I also need this person's phone number.
Yeah.
To further pursue this line of inquiry.
Well, Luke, like regional MMA, anything can happen on local TV news. Let's go to South America here. A nice little street report. Oh,
it's just a man's ass.
Full moon tonight. There you go. All right. Let's go over to Jana's party. I don't know what this means.
From the street, Jana's party is way more interesting. Oh, anal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're invited, Luke. There you go. All right. Luke, this 8th grade football PA announcer would lose his job for this. Tell me if it's justified.
Let's give him a hand job. Hand. I am so sorry. Let's give him a hand, folks. Great job. Well done, ladies.
He works at that orchid place that Robert Kraft went to. You know that.
Luke, you think you've had a bad day. Let's see this lady.
So this day can't get any worse. My car is getting towed.
Why can't ICE deport her?
Well, Luke, this trend of that Celine started with eating cakes is getting very much out of control. Let's check in on the weird cake lady.
Oh, God.
What time is it, Luke? It's cake time, okay? Yeah.
Here we go. Just eating shit off the wall. And then the wall itself. Fucking absolutely.
Here
we go. You're gonna eat that. Yep. Sure enough. Oh, God damn.
I mean, whoa, dude, PlayStation.
Okay,
All right.
Cake lady, we get it. You make cake look like unusual. Oh, here we go. Eat the fucking.
Oh, Fortnite, Luke. We could be hanging out with her. Look at this.
You know what? That Fortnite cake looks pretty good, actually.
Yeah,
Come on. It's got a little Arequipe in it.
Luke, this might have set the record for the most amount of people DMing me it, so I finally had to play it. Here's more cake love. Okay. That is
I've seen this.
Yeah, that's something. All right, our final
he picks it up and eats a piece, yes.
Yeah, our final weird cake moment. I don't know how to describe it.
I'm the strongest motherfucker in the world, bitch.
All right, maybe it is time for this show to come in, this segment to come into it.
Dude, that's what we're ending on? Is like
no, I got one more
cake?
for you, Luke. You know, when I was a kid, they said don't play with matches. They didn't say anything about fireworks, though.
Stop moving.
Hold it up. Hold it up. Hold it up. Legend, come here. Come here.
That kid rules.
Yeah. What would happen if you gave Tukey a bottle rocket?
Nah, no. I have her on a.
No,
She
All
wouldn't
right.
do that. She wouldn't do that.
That's the shit of the week. I don't know if it comes back next week. We'll have to wait and see.
It needs to come back. I mean, this was Charles Oliveira getting knocked out by Topuria. I need you to give me the Gamrot performance.
Yeah, you're right. I need some elder abuse. I need a few different things there. Okay, there we go. That would be most of the show until I just tell you once more about our merch situation. Why don't you head on over to morningkombat.shop. Get our October exclusives before they go. Shout out to the great Average Joe Art on the designs. I think you'd look great in the Super Mario Wash Dad shirt. How about that Franken Luke and Donkula Halloween collab right there? Get it in autographed poster or the t-shirt with the color of your choice. Evergreen items available. Buy them for your abuela while you still have her in your life. Thank you. morningkombat.shop. You can like the show. You can follow us. You can do different things with us. There's our YouTube channels. Thank you. Look, anything coming up fresh and new on your channel? I saw you had a nice breakdown on Oliveira.
Yeah, that's it. I got a bunch of stuff to do after the show today before Tukey gets back from the petting farm, whatever the fuck it is. So I will try to get up a full breakdown on some of the Omoplata series that Oliveira went after. So be on the lookout.
Good stuff right there. Let's say goodbye to our third member of the team, Long Island Luke. Will the main card minute be back up and running this week?
Yeah, I'll have a bet breakdown out tomorrow. New prop quiz on Friday. Watch along Saturday. You guys know the drill. Come on.
That's what we do. We make content in these parts. All right, Luke. Any message of wisdom that you want to share with the viewers? Saul, he's on vacation right now. If you've been following him on Instagram, it looks like he's on the island somewhere.
Life is about the ability to have consistent, simple joys. May you ever find them.
Yes. And if you're home alone, as Luke Thomas often says,
yes.
It's easy to find one.
Yes. Listen, Pornhub. Let's be real.
Okay. All right. For both Lukes, it's your boy BC. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves. Dye your hair if it's getting gross. We love you. We'll see you on Friday. There's some fights this weekend or something like that. Peace, and we out of here. Thank you.